What's up guys, Pure Phoenix here, and I'm doing a matchup today that I haven't casted yet. This is a Terran vs Terran between the Diamond Terran Blue Kerrigan, spawning on the right side, and the Red Terran TJIOE, who is a Master League Terran player. And this is actually a custom game. These two players are friends and they are just having a bit of a practice match in a Terran vs Terran, but they're always pretty fragile matchups, Terran vs Terran, so it'll be interesting to see which tech option each player goes in order to conquer each other. So my subscribers count has almost doubled in the last couple of days, so thanks to everyone who has subscribed. And I've also been getting sent a lot of replays, and I do appreciate that. If anyone wants to send me some replays, purephoenix1@gmail.com, I'll put that in the description, and feel free to send any games. And if you can write a little description about what happens in the game, like say it's a Terran vs Terran on whatever map, goes for 20 minutes or so, you know, a few good drops, something like that, just so that I know what I'm kind of up against when I load the replay up and cast, because I don't actually watch the games before I cast them, so I'm generally as surprised as everyone else with what's happening. And I think that way it's not as much me making predictions which I know are going to happen, and it's me kind of learning from the experiences as well. I'll just silence that phone. So both players now trying to find the location of one another. Kerrigan hasn't actually got a barracks down yet. I'm going to call him TJIOE from now on. Sorry if that's not how you pronounce it. So TJIOE has thrown down a barracks and his is almost finished, but we haven't seen a barracks yet. Oh, we got another command center for Kerrigan, so he's gone straight for an expand, but he hasn't thrown it down at this usual location, so he might fly it to the safe location, which is blocked by rocks on both sides. And TJIOE is having a bit of a scout around Kerrigan's base, and he's not really sure what's going on, as there is no barracks or anything. He has now got a gas and another supply depot, and meanwhile TJIOE has thrown down a tech lab on his reactor and gotten a gas down himself, and this scouting SCV will go down from this marine, while TJIOE's scouting SCV remains in the base. So this command center is really interesting. I think it'll make a big impact on the game if TJIOE is unaware of it throughout the game, if Kerrigan's always having that economical advantage and TJIOE thinks they're on equal basis when they're not, although surely at this stage he is pretty suspicious of something. The fact that a barracks is only halfway finished, 5 minutes into the game, there's definitely something going on. So he's had a look there, still hasn't seen an expansion, but he might be really close to discovering it. If he just moves down a bit, Kerrigan needs to lift that off and land that on this location down here. Although he's gone to produce an SCV, I'm not sure why he's doing that just yet. TJIOE is definitely suspicious, and he sent SCVs all around the map looking for this expansion. Now this Reaper could do a bit of damage, because it would be able to get into this early expansion if he flies it into this protected area. So this Reaper would definitely be able to do a bit of damage, wipe out a few SCVs, and maybe even take out the whole thing, since it would be impossible for Kerrigan to defend the base with any kind of ground units this stage in the game. So he could have actually created his own problem by going for this early thing if the Reaper does locate the base, which it looks like it's pretty close to doing. So Kerrigan's actually changed his mind and just gone and flown it straight into that expansion here. Maybe that was his plan all along, or maybe he just changed his plan because his Reaper definitely would have found a base down here. So these two SCVs really need to get to mining or doing something, although now that Reaper will get a couple of kills wiping out that SCV. So we now have 3 barracks for Kerrigan and 3 barracks for TJIOE, sorry, and a full bunker to defend his base. We have Stimpack being researched for TJIOE, while an engineering bay goes down for Kerrigan to get some upgrades. So nothing too unusual apart from this weird command center location at the beginning of the map, although everything else seems just about how it should be for a standard Terran vs Terran. Just a lot of Marines, a couple of Marauders, but nothing unusual, no 1-1-1s or anything like that. We do have a factory going down now for TGO, as well as him about to land his expansion, but looking at the income tab, Kerrigan is slightly ahead due to him having 2 orbital commands up, being able to call in twice as many mules. So this SCV will try to scout, and it will see the expansion of Kerrigan's, which was actually being built a long time ago down here. So concussive shells there might have stopped that scout, but nothing to worry about really. Now Kerrigan was supply blocked temporarily there, so thrown down a couple of supply depots now, and this Marine is going to go try to take this Elnaga tower, but the Reaper will prevail. So that Reaper now 3 kills, quite worth its cost, as it did take out a couple of SCVs and a Marine. So 16 Marines now for TGO, with more on the way. He's got 2 barracks with a reactor, as well as 1 with a tech lab, which he isn't using to actually create or produce anything. He did get that stim pack research though, which can make a big difference for such a large group of Marines. So he's just going to send in 3 first, but Kerrigan saw it coming and got his Marine right out of there. And at this stage I don't think Kerrigan actually has what it takes to deal with this if TGO commits with all those Marines, because he doesn't have stim pack, although his +1 attack is going to pop any second now. We've got about 2 seconds until that finishes, and it finishes now, so he might be able to hold this off with that Marauder and a lot more Marines coming down the ramp. I definitely think Kerrigan will be able to hold this off with that +1 attack, although stim pack did do a lot of damage for TGO, and he's just going to run in and take out as many miners as he is capable of doing. But the timing of that +1 attack was very fortunate for Kerrigan, as he did get that extra attack advantage when he was on the defensive. So that was well played by him to get those early upgrades from the engineering bay. Now TGO's +1 attack is about halfway, but it won't be ready anytime soon. So now Kerrigan's taking out the rocks at this high yield expansion and throwing down a command center. So he will grab that expansion again, or try to grab that expansion, and he will be ahead on the base count again. So Kerrigan has 2 gases on this expansion, and he's not mining anything. And I saw a starport going down for Kerrigan, so he does have a starport, and we might see. Yep, so he's doing the reactor switch with the factory, so we will see some medivacs coming out of that starport and a tech lab for siege tank. So still nothing unusual so far for either players. TGO is still committing to this biological group, although he does have a siege tank coming out. So it actually looks like both players are pretty similar in terms of production facilities. We've got 3 barracks, an engineering bay, a starport and a factory for both players, and they're even expanding at similar times to a third, although Kerrigan is going to have this high yield expansion very early, and TGO hasn't cleared the rocks out for his gold, so he might grab the secure one in the corner. So a large number of biological units now for Kerrigan roaming the center of the map, a couple of medivacs, and is he going for a drop perhaps? We do have a sensor tower for TGO, so he would see some kind of play coming, and he can actually see all of these SCVs as well. And TGO did do a small drop into the mineral line, but he didn't actually take anything out whatsoever, and he does lose that SCV. So well played by Kerrigan, using his own medivacs to take out the enemy medivac. And now Kerrigan's moved this small force here, maybe to make sure that TGO isn't able to grab a high yield expansion. And we now have a 4th base being built for Kerrigan, while TGO's 3rd base finishes, and he will look to fly that off up here, I imagine, after turning it into an orbital command, something Kerrigan is just about finished doing. We got a lot more Marines being produced still, and siege tanks coming out for both players, medivacs coming out, and upgrades. So it's still looking pretty equal at this point. They're both on equal supply. They've got a similar looking army size, so similar harvester count. It's a really similar matchup this far, and Kerrigan actually took down these rocks because I think he is assuming an expansion is up here, but while he went to take out these rocks, Kerrigan moved in behind him and took out the rocks at the high yield expansion. So they're both about to land their high yield expansions at the same time, even though Kerrigan did throw his expansion down about a minute or so earlier. We've got missile turrets stopping drops on this side. We've got a missile turret at the back here. And yeah, it's looking really similar, although these Marines are definitely out of position if TJIOE does commit an attack at the moment. He's got 3 siege tanks, 4 medivacs, and 2 pages of Marines, so about 40 Marines. And it would be really interesting if TJIOE were to attack at the moment, because there is not much in a defensive position. He's blasting out some rocks to gain access to this base. So Kerrigan now has 4 bases to TJIOE's 3rd. And these Marines have no chance of surviving. He does stim them and they just get obliterated instantly. These siege tanks doing so much damage, leaving their bodies on the ground. Although these siege tanks are now sieged up, and oh, so much damage being done, and TJIOE needs to get right out of there. Kerrigan chasing down with a force of Marines, lures them back into the radius of the siege tanks nicely. So well played there. These medivacs will heal some of those up. And now he's got his own siege tanks happening on the low ground, with a medivac doing a drop onto the high ground, and this barracks has to get out of there or it will pay the price. So this is an interesting offensive from TJIOE. He managed to get on the high ground, and Kerrigan's army isn't really mobile at the moment, so he's just going to kind of sit back and watch it all happen. And now he's going to charge in at these siege tanks. He stims them all. He does lose a lot of them, but I think he will come out on top of this one. Yeah, all of TJIOE's biological units go down, and now the siege tanks are losing health rapidly. And Kerrigan did the only thing he really could there, which was charge in at his opponent and stop that little chokehold from happening and wiping out a couple of his buildings. So well played by Kerrigan there, although an interesting assault choice from TJIOE, and it could have paid off the longer it went for. So now Kerrigan definitely has the upper hand in terms of army size, although with the production facilities of both sides, they definitely have the capability to create an army very quickly. And Kerrigan has his 4th base now, but he's not using it at the moment. He does have these bases all saturated by the looks of things. When this base is mined out, which will be very soon, I imagine he will just transfer all of these workers right down to here and continue mining off 3 solid bases. So a lot of Kerrigan's army just got wiped out. He will get these medivacs out of here, I think. Maybe not. And he might want to move these 2 back as well, or they're going to go down. And luckily for Kerrigan, TJIOE didn't chase that down, but a small number of Kerrigan's forces just got wiped out by this defensively positioned siege tanks and Marines and medivacs. So under production at the moment, we have more siege tanks, more Marines, more medivacs, more upgrades for both vehicles and infantry. So I'm still looking for a mirror matchup. This is still very symmetrical on both sides, although when TJIOE's main is mined out, I don't know where he's going to send those workers, because there it is, a 4th command center going down for TJIOE, which he will land here, or he won't be able to land here because Kerrigan left a Marine, which was well played. So now we've got a medivac which could potentially do some sort of drop on this high yield, although there are 3 missile turrets preventing that, and this medivac definitely will have seen this medivac. And is this medivac capable of, what's he going to do? He's being chased. He's going to take out that Marine, and then he'll beam them all up again. Oh, he might want to pick those guys up because they are about to get cleaned up. And TJIOE just takes out what was left of Kerrigan's small little force of Marines there. And TJIOE does have a very large army now, so does Kerrigan, and they're both looking to move in the center of the map. So Marines, Marauders, and tanks, Marines, medivacs and tanks both in the middle of the map right now, and TJIOE with a much better surround. He needs to get those tanks into siege mode. Every tank is in siege mode now, just blasting away on each other. They just get the biological units out of there because the splash damage does so much damage. So now the tanks are just firing upon each other. TJIOE would have came out on top of that, as Kerrigan's army is almost gone completely, and TJIOE did manage to pull his biological units out earlier, therefore saving them from the wrath of the tanks. So more tanks, more marines, more medivacs being produced. We have them just being rallied into the center of the map for this little showdown, and we have a small drop here from TJIOE into Kerrigan's base, but he's not really doing anything with it yet, and Kerrigan did stop this expansion from going down temporarily. It will go down now, and this small group of marines go in, take out a supply depot and a small number of marines, and now all of TJIOE's army is moving around and completely flanking Kerrigan. So Kerrigan's got no idea. He thinks that TJIOE is still up there, but he's moved completely behind him, and this could be catastrophic for TJIOE. And he stims in and just completely wipes him out. He definitely wasn't ready for that. And good surround for both players. A lot more siege tanks for TJIOE, so a lot more splash damage in general. Medivacs trying frantically to heal all these marines, but siege tanks just doing so much damage. And that was very good by TJIOE. He's got so many medivacs. He's got 11 medivacs up forward, but that flanking through the grass was very interesting. And now he moves forward with all of his army and sandwiches Kerrigan's forces on both sides. So Kerrigan, he does have a small group of guys here, marines, lots of marines, a few medivacs and 4 siege tanks, but it's definitely a defensive army at this stage. So now 8 marines and a medivac go in to take out this expansion, although I don't think, we might actually get a few SCV kills here, because doesn't look like Kerrigan's got anything in the means of defense for this base. So yeah, we might see a lot of SCVs be massacred here if he uses Stimpack. And he finally uses Stimpack, but I think it's going to be a little too late because the Marines have arrived on this expansion. We'll comfortably land back down. A lot of SCVs up here though, and TJIOE now owns the central position of the map with about 40 marines, 10 siege tanks, and 15 medivacs. So 13 medivacs, now 17. So I definitely think TJIOE has the upper hand in this one. Harvester's count remains about equal, but Kerrigan's income is so much greater as he just transferred those workers seamlessly from that base to this base, this planetary fortress here, whereas TJIOE's definitely had issues doing so due to this marine and this small forces of marine. So now TJIOE is completely maxed out on 200 supply, and he looks like he's going to go maybe take out these expansions first, and he's actually going to bump into a medivac of Kerrigan's. I don't know if he will chase it, but he'll certainly be aware of it, and so it's obvious that medivac is headed straight here, but there are now 3 missile turrets, and I don't think they're going to do very much damage at all. So now Kerrigan is moving what's left of his force. Someone needs to siege up their tanks, and straight away tanks are sieged up. TJIOE definitely looks like he has the upper hand again, although a lot of his biological units were wiped out. These tanks are going to stop anyone moving forward and stopping TJIOE from wiping out this gold expansion. So every single worker at this gold expansion, including the base itself, have gone down, and there's not much that Kerrigan can really do with the positioning of these siege tanks. So this base is completely wiped out for Kerrigan, and he loses his economical advantage. He is now down 15 harvesters, and his income is lower than TJIOE's, and now Kerrigan attacking from both sides. The siege tank's doing a lot, but maybe not enough, and all that's really here are medivacs. So Kerrigan actually came out on top of that one. Nice sandwich on both sides with that good, creating a good surround, and TJIOE had to back up with all of these medivacs. That is a lot of medivacs, and he would not want to lose that many, but now so many more biological units being rallied into the middle. All of a sudden there's another 40 odd marines in the middle of the map, and Kerrigan looks like he's going to move up, but TJIOE's tanks aren't sieged. Kerrigan now sieges up, and TJIOE can't really move forward at this stage. He dropped a couple of marines just to continue to harass this base here, which something he's been doing really well, and he has to do considering he lost that high yield gold base. And he now has this base mining nicely. This base is pretty much gone, although he did Didn't have too many minerals left over. There was a rich field there, but that's about it. And now Kerrigan's moving into a position where he'll siege up and be able to take out a lot of those biological units. TJIOE needs to move back, which he does. Although he can see all of this because he does have the Zelnaga vision. So production, 3 more siege tanks and 10 marines coming out for Kerrigan. But I don't think TJIOE is hardly mining anywhere. He has gotten 50 SCVs mining on this one base. So that's the sign of a guy who's in trouble. He's now flying this orbital command, his original orbital command, over to here, but there is a medivac waiting for this to happen, so well anticipated by Kerrigan. And now another showdown in the center of the map. It looks like Kerrigan's going to come out on top of this one, again having his siege tanks placed earlier. That siege tank survives with 1 health right there, and Kerrigan chases down some of these medivacs across the map, and he also is about to throw down land another command center. So look at the income tab. TJIOE is now doing a lot better in terms of income, although he really doesn't need that many guys mining off one base, so he'll make a small transfer when he can. Although Kerrigan looks like he might actually be able to take out this command center. He does have 3/3 upgrades, so that building really didn't stand a chance, and that is a big blow for TJIOE. He lost his original orbital command, and now another showdown. Kerrigan siege tank just obliterating all that's left of those biological units, and it really looks like TJIOE is going to lose all of his army here. He's got a couple of defensive siege tanks, and that siege tank that was on 1 health finally went down, so he picks up a lot of his biological units and drops them right next to those siege tanks. Then there's really nothing they can do from that position. He does have 1 siege tank on the low ground, but definitely looks like Kerrigan is going to be able to do a lot of damage while he's inside the base. I can't see anything that TJIOE is going to be able to defend with. He's got a couple of siege tanks coming out, and there he is. GG, well played from TJIOE, and he leaves the game. So that was a very long game, great tug of war. There was a lot of showdowns in the center of the map involving siege tanks, and it was really whoever got their siege tank down first came out on top. The expansion race was played well by both players. Kerrigan did really well to put some pressure on here, anticipating where his opponent was going to expand, and he had a medivac here ready to drop 8 marines as soon as TJIOE tried to expand here. So very well played by both players. Kerrigan, the diamond player, did manage to top his master friend on this occasion. I hope you guys have enjoyed this cast. It was a long one, so thanks for listening in. I hope you've learned something, and I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.